Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astautar Sarashishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our most beloved, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astautar Sarashishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada, and all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams. So today is a long day. This is the 9th day of Kartik, and today is perhaps one of the longest days that we're going to be traveling around in Braj. The day we go to Kamyavan, that's also a long day. But today in particular is quite exceptional. It's a long, dusty day in the buses. So we're going to Khelanvana, we're going to Viharavana, we're going to Rama-ghata, we're going to Cira-ghata, we're going to Vatsavana, and right at the end we're going to stop at Garuda-Govinda and hear those glories of Sridham Sakha and Garuda Dev. So first of all, we'll stop in Khelanvana. Khelanvana is a most beautiful forest. It's also called Cira-ghata. Sometimes we call it Cira-ghata or Khelanvana. So I'm just going to read from Gurudev's PARIKRAMA book about this place, and I'll interject with any comments that I think are relevant. So this place lies 2 miles southeast of Ujjaini. So we're driving north today. We're driving on the road to Delhi. We go on the Grand Trunk Road and we go along, and just before we reach Koshi, then we take off to a right and we veer down towards the Jamuna. So it's the northeast extreme forests of Vrindavan we're going to be traveling in today. Sri Krishna and Sri Balaram used to amuse themselves here with the Sakhas when they would come here for cow herding. Srimati Radhika also played here with her Sakhis. This place is called Khelanvana because they would play Khelana or Kalna. They would play here. Nanda Baba resided here for some time with the gopis, gopas and cows. Vrishabhanu Baba also stayed here with his whole family and the herd of cows. So, as we mentioned before previously, Nanda Baba and Vrishabhanu Maharaj would move around extensively in order to find sufficient grazing grounds for their thousands and thousands of cows. So this was the life of a cowherd community, is that they would move. We heard how when Krishna took his birth in Gokul, then later on they crossed over the Jamuna and they came up through Vrindavan forest, through Chatikra, and then they came to a little village called Basant, and then they circumambulated Govardhan, and then they stayed in Nandagaon and Varshana. So this place also, Khelanvana, is sometimes where they would stay in their journeying around in Braj. Jatila and Kotila thought themselves to be the only chaste women in Braj, and they considered Radhika to be not even slightly chaste. They always spoke ill of Radhika and made propaganda against her. Krishna was aware of all this. One day he pretended to be ill to the point of death. Yashodaji called for the Vaidyas, the Ayurvedic doctors, and Brahmanas skilled in mantras, but no one was able to help. Finally, Yogamaya Purnamasi arrived on the scene. She said, If a chaste lady brings water from the Jamuna in an earthen water pot which has hundreds of holes, and if I then perform Abhishek of Krishna with mantras and with that water, then Kanaya can be healthy again. Otherwise it will be impossible to save him. Yasodaji called Jotila and Kotila and requested them to bring water from the Jamuna in that special pot. They went separately to the Jamuna to fill the water, but were unable to retain even a drop of water in it. Embarrassed, they left the pot on the Yamuna's shore and returned home by another place so they would not meet anybody. Yogamaya Purnamasi then advised Yashodamai to request Srimati Radhika to bring water in that 100-holed pot. Upon being repeatedly requested, Srimati Radhika finally agreed to go to the Jamuna. She successfully brought back water in that pot without spilling even one drop. Purnamasi-ji sprinkled Krishna with that water, and he immediately regained his vigorous health. All the Brijbasis were amazed to see this wonderful incident, and Radhika's chastity was praised everywhere. So Krishna would arrange these types of pastimes just by his desire, and of course Yogamaya, who is the potency manifesting ultimately from Sri Radha in the form of Purnamasi and Vrindadevi, they would create situations where all these desires of Krishna would be unfolded, because we're going to hear today the beautiful story at Vatsavana, where Lord Brahma became bewildered. But this was also partly due to Krishna's desire, and Yogamaya arranged that situation. So in this place of Khelanvana, it's finally said here that places of darshan here are Balaram Kund, Gopi Ghat, Sri Radha-Govinda ji, Sri Radha-Gopinath ji, and Sri Madan Mohan. So these deities are there also in Khelanvana. There's a little altar there, and you can see these different personalities on the altars. So we're very fortunate to come to this beautiful place today and remember these types of pastimes. And when we're in these forests, they are so beautiful and filled with beautiful birds chirping and so on. And we see the little giridharis like squirrels jumping around everywhere. And it's just a very beautiful atmosphere for the devotees to remember these sweet, special pastimes of Radha and Krishna, where they played, Kelanvana, where they played. So Khelanvana ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. So now we've travelled from Cira-ghata about 2 miles, and we've come to this most attractive place of Rama-ghata. Rama-ghata is the most delightful ashram with huge trees right on the bank of the Jamuna. And it's a very beautiful atmosphere because it's somewhat off the general tourist track. So it's very secluded, but it's immensely beautiful. And the atmosphere in the early morning, which is when we normally arrive, is very mystical, with the beautiful birds singing and the deep blue sky. And it has a very attractive nature to it. So we're going to hear the beautiful pastimes of how Ram finally decided to come here alone from Dwarka. So Balaram had repeatedly requested Krishna to come back from Dwarka and console the Brijbasis, who were in such pathetic state of suffering. But each time he was asked to return, Krishna didn't respond. He just became silent. So finally, Baladev Prabhu, he became impatient, and his heart was melting at the grief that the Brijbasis were experiencing, and he decided to come alone to Vrindavan. Now, why couldn't Krishna come to Vrindavan? Was it that Krishna didn't want to visit his family members? Of course he wanted to visit his family members. But Gurudev has explained that Krishna wouldn't have been able just to come back for a few days or a few months. he wouldn't have been ever able to leave again. The initial separation that all the Brijbasis experienced was contained, so to speak. But if Krishna came back again and opened up that union mood with all the Brijbasis, he could never again possibly leave Vrindavan. Therefore, he wouldn't complete all the various duties that he had to perform in relieving Mother Earth of the immense burden of all the warring kings and so on that were on the planet in Bharatvarsh at that time. So Gurudev describes like if you have a metal on the fire or a frying pan and it's very, very hot and you throw some water into it, it spits and hisses immediately. You either have to put a whole lot of water into it to cool the pot down, or you don't put any water into it. So if Krishna had just gone back for a short, brief time, it would be just like sprinkling water on a hot frying pan, which would have fizzed and hissed, etc. So Krishna understood that the gopis' hearts would not be able to tolerate another enormous separation. So Krishna couldn't go back. It wasn't possible for Krishna to go back. So therefore, when Baladev would request him repeatedly, Krishna wasn't able to explain this to Baladev. So Baladev, he decided that he would come alone to Braj. And then he traveled to Braj, and of course the Brijbasis were overwhelmed in happiness and joy to meet him. And Baladev, he stayed for 2 or 3 months in the village with Nanda Baba and Yashoda, and all the Brijbasis were constantly coming to have his darshan, and he was able to relieve their separation to some degree. Sometimes Baladev, it's described, would go a blackish color in sympathy or in thoughts of his dear younger brother. So I'm going to read a little bit from Gurudev's Parikrama book about the pastime specifically here at Ram-Ghat, because Ram, as we know, had his own gopis, as Krishna had his gopis. So who were the gopis that were dancing in Ras Leela with Ram? Because Ram, besides pacifying his mother and father and all the villagers, the gopas and gopis, etc., he had to pacify his own particular gopis as well as Krishna's gopis. So this pastime at Ram-Ghat is where Balaram performed his Ras Leela pastimes when Krishna was still in Dwarka. Balaram only lives to please and satisfy his dearmost Sri Krishna, Brajendranandan Krishna. Every act he's doing, like Sri Radha, is only for the satisfaction of Krishna. Baladeva, never at any time is he seeking any pleasure independently of Krishna. Everything is just to bring Krishna pleasure. So with this understanding, then we can approach this topic clearly. So Gurudev is describing that to relieve the agony of the gopis' separation, Baladev performed Ras Leela here, complete with dancing and singing. So Baladev Prabhu was intimately dancing with his own gopis, and Krishna's gopis were experiencing something of Krishna's presence by just the presence of Baladev being there. They were remembering deeply Krishna's presence, so they were somewhat relieved of their separation from Krishna. And then I'm continuing to read here. At that time, Varunadev induced the highly fragrant Varuni, a sweet nectar found in trees, to start flowing. Baladevji and his beloveds drank this Varuni, and becoming intoxicated, submerged in Ras Vilas. To perform Jal Krida and to quench the thirst of the gopis, Jal Krida is to bathe in the waters of the Jamuna, he called Jamunaji, who was flowing some distance away. When she did not come, however, he dragged her over to them with his plough. He and the gopis then played Jalvikara, played in the waters, all types of games in the Jamuna. Even today, the Jamuna leaves her natural course and flows by Rama-ghata. So Lord Ram, it's described, had become externally intoxicated with the Varuni beverage, and he called Jamuna over to him. But Jamuna was thinking, oh, he's just had too much Varuni beverage, and she wasn't feeling sufficiently respectful towards Baladev Prabhu at that time, so she didn't heed his call. And Baladev Prabhu, he became impatient, and he takes his club and he scratches the ground to form channels so that Jamuna Devi would change her course and come to where he was with the gopis. And then as soon as Baladev Prabhu began to do that, immediately Jamuna Devi appeared and appeased Baladev's unhappiness with beautiful prayers, and then Baladev was very satisfied by that. But even today, those marks that Baladev made with his club are still there for us all to see and witness this pastime of Baladev calling Jamuna Devi. So some might think, how could Baladev do this to the dear Saki of Krishna, Vishaka Devi? And Gurudev explains that sometimes Vishaka Devi is present within the waters of the Jamuna, and there are other times when she's not present. In this particular pastime, Kalindi Devi, she is the embodiment of Jamuna Devi at that time. This is a more Aishwarya mood of Jamuna Devi. So it wasn't in fact at that time the mood of Vishaka within those Jamuna waters when Baladev called her. Vishaka's mood was not present in the waters there. Baladev would not have done that to Vishaka Devi. It was to Kalindi Devi. So this is a very glorious pastime, glorifying Baladev Prabhu, and at the same time also glorifying Jamuna Devi, how she offered such submissive, beautiful prayers to Baladev when she understood the situation, and she flowed with her waters there for the pleasure of Baladev Prabhu and his gopis. Gurudev continues, a doubt may arise as to how Balaji could perform rasa with Sri Krishna's beloved gopis. This would be wholly improper from the perspective of rasa. It also seems improper for Baladevji to have dragged the Jamuna with his plough, since she is a manifestation of Vishaka, and therefore the beloved of Krishna. Such doubts, however, arise only in the minds of those who lack tattva gyan. Ordinary people cannot understand transcendental rasa tattva. Sri Krishna and Balaram's rasa dance does not contain even the slightest trace of material licentiousness or desire for lusty enjoyment. Furthermore, Baladevji performed rasa only with his own group of Braja Gopis. This is clear from Sri Murari Gupta's Sri Krishna Charita. Yamuna Ji is Vishaka herself. She is a beloved of Krishna and one of the main girlfriends of Srimati Radhika. The Jamuna that flows into the sea, however, is a manifestation of this Jamuna. It was this manifestation, not Jamuna herself, the beloved of Sri Krishna, who Baladev dragged with his plough, with the nose of his plough. One can dispel one's doubt on this subject in this way. So this is, as I've just explained previously, this was not directly Vishaka Devi that Baladev was dragging towards him. And now it's described that Sri Nityananda Prabhu came here during his tour of VRAJA-MANDAL, and when he took darshan of this place, he became absorbed in bhav. Near the mandir of Balaji is an ashwata tree, which is known to be a saka of Balaram. Balaram's Rasa Leela took place here. So we're remembering with great joy and happiness how Baladev was so merciful to the residents of Braj in this pastime, how he left Dwarka and he came to pacify the intense separation mood of the Brijbasis, particularly his own gopis. So we hear this pastime with great happiness and joy at this place of Rama-ghata, and we see the marks of the channels that were dug by Balaram's plough. All of this is giving us great confidence and faith. Our nishta in these leelas is increasing more and more. The more we hear about the sweet special pastimes of Krishna, the more they replace our impersonal tendencies. And then we begin to see the personal aspect far more brightly than previously. As I've said before, Gurudev has said so many times that the Leela is so much more important, actually, than the Tattva. The Leela is like the rider, and the Tattva is like the horse. So hearing about these pastimes creates great faith and shraddha, and to actually see these pastimes directly in front of us, to see these holy places and the atmosphere that they evoke, and being there in the company of so many devotees, and hearing from Gurudev or hearing from the different speakers all about these pastimes, then it's very powerful impression on the heart and consciousness. So Ram-ghata ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So now we're going to travel just a very short distance, and we come to the beautiful sandbank of the Jamuna, and this place is called Cira-ghata, and we see very extensive darshan view of Jamuna Devi is there, and this is the place, and we see the exact tree where Krishna climbed, that Kadamba tree, carrying the clothes of the small young Kumari gopis who had been worshipping Katyayani with the intention of getting Krishna as their husband. So this is a very, very beautiful story that we hear each time when we come to this place. And it's not always so easy to appreciate and fully understand. So we have to take shelter deeply of the scriptures to understand this pastime very clearly. So these small girls, they were very small. They were only about 3 or 4 years old. And they had taken a vow just after the month of Kartik, when it begins to get cold, in late November or early December. They had taken a vow for a month to worship Katyayani. And their parents and elders, they were pacified and they agreed to their daughters doing this because it's the nature in Braj to pray to Uma Devi, the wife of Sankar, for a good husband in life. So the young girls, they wanted, of course, Krishna as their husband, and they didn't tell this to their parents. They were keeping that very secret to themselves. But this vow entailed that very early in the morning, probably about 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, when it's quite chilly, practically bitterly cold on some mornings, these young girls, barefoot, would carry their little tiffins and come to the Jamuna and begin the worship of Katyayani. I can remember living in Durvasa Ashram, and this brat was still going on traditionally by the young girls of the village. We would see them come in the morning in no shoes or socks, etc., shivering cold, and they would take darshan of Radha and Krishna on the altar in Durvasa, offer lamps, and then sing many beautiful songs, and then carry on their walking down to the Jamuna. So they would go in groups of about 10 or 15 girls at a time, and there would always be an older sister with them, just to protect them and guide them through. So these young girls, they were performing this brat, so young, 3 or 4 years old, but their attraction to Krishna had taken place in their core of their hearts, and they wanted firmly that Krishna would become their husbands. They wanted nothing else. So they were praying to Katyayani. They came to the bank of the Jamuna, and they made with the sand a beautiful deity of Katyayani, and they decorated her with flowers, and they offered incense and lamps, etc. They performed very beautiful puja to Katyayani. And at the end of that puja, they would all go and take their bath in the cold winter morning in the cold Jamuna. Every morning they would do like this for a whole month, and then they would come back to their homes. So I want to read from Ananda Vrindavan Champu by Kavi Kanpur. Kavi Kanpur sucked the toe of Sachinandana Gaurahari in Puri Dham. So whatever he speaks is dripping with nectar. So this Ananda Vrindavan Champu is filled with beautiful poetic embellishments about this pastime. So I'm going to read parts of this pastime directly from there, and we'll get a clear picture of what is taking place here at Cira-ghata. On the last day of their brat, of this Katyayani brat, the gopis felt quivering in their left arms, eyes and thighs. These signs of imminent auspiciousness removed their fatigue and made them confident of attaining the fruit of their desire to enjoy with Krishna. As they considered how to best complete their brat, the sun rose brilliantly in the sky. The lotuses responded by opening happily as the atmosphere saturated with immeasurable joy. The gopis worshipped Devi with countless numbers of the best quality articles, rejoicing over the successful completion of their brat. The gopis liberally offered the various puja items, anticipating the forthcoming result of their austerities. The gopis succumbed to a playful mood and stood up excitedly. After receiving the blessings of Katyayani, they took off their fancy pure silk saris and placed them on some clean ground. Following the local customs, they bathed naked in the Jamuna. Elated and enthused, the gopis joyfully pushed and squeezed each other, basking under the warm rays of the sun. They were oblivious to the cold water. The blissful gopis created a captivating scene as they lost themselves in the fun of water sporting. Meanwhile, according to the previous day's plan, the young cowherd boys walked towards the pastures. Hearing them approaching, the forest birds excitedly flew into the sky. Though Krishna is very strong, he is conquered by the intense love of his dear friends like Balaram. Although he is independent, Krishna became controlled by the pure love of the gopis and thus moved in their direction. The prem of the young gopis reached perfection because it had the desire to give bliss to Krishna as its only goal. In order to dispel the pain of their longing, Brajendranandan Krishna, the master of masters, showered nectar from his flute. Taking the qualities of the young girls as his necklace, Krishna left the happiness of herding the cows and playing with his intimate friends. He went to perform pastimes with the gopis in order to make the bud of their heart's prem blossom into a flower. So now Krishna is described as becoming mischievous in the sense that he comes to the bank of the Jamuna and he sees the pile of clothes beside the Jamuna, and he sees the young gopis bathing in the Jamuna. So secretly he comes and he's with a few very, very young cowherd friends. These young boys are 3 or 4 years old. Krishna is about 7 years old at this time. And then Krishna is described crouched down and cast a few furtive glances while smiling mischievously. Although Krishna is an unfathomable reservoir of steadiness and all other good qualities, he often displays a unique type of fickleness. Adopting the mood of a thief, Krishna arrogantly snatched the gopis' clothes and slung them over his shoulder. After hushing up his little friends, Krishna quickly climbed to the top of a kadamba tree. Sitting on the branch, Krishna glanced towards the gopis and listened to their talk. At that time, the young gopis, who are praised even by the goddesses of fortune, desired to stop bathing. Not seeing their clothes on the bank of the river, the gopis thought with surprise, "Who stole our clothes? There is no one here except the rays of the sun, and on the banks there is only the footprints of some water birds. Perhaps the devatas have hidden our clothes somewhere, because when they visit they do not touch the earth nor leave any footprints." The gopis looked fearfully here and there, while arguing over the various possibilities. The waves of their sidelong glances skimmed across the surface of the Jamuna. The gopis scanned all directions with their wide blue eyes that resembled the petals of blue lotuses. Their unparalleled beauty astounded the whole universe. The glances of the gopis resembled rows of glittering safari fish darting to and fro. Not finding their clothes, they submerged in an ocean of sorrow. Seeing their plight, the young prince of Vrindavan, who removes the sadness of the world, assumed a splendid aura of beauty as he sat on the kadamba tree. His natural effulgence easily eclipsed the radiance of the sun. While smiling at his young gopa friends, Krishna joked with the gopis in a sweet, clear voice, soaked in a nectar unknown even in the heavenly planets. Krishna said, "O young girls, you should not be so disturbed by this. I have stolen your pure, sparkling garments just to attract your minds and relish some pleasurable pastimes. Using your pearl necklaces as an offering, give up your pride and come here alone or come all together to get your clothes." So we understand this is the desire of the gopis' brat. They wanted Krishna as their husband. So deep in their hearts now, even though this pastime was uncomfortable for them externally, their hearts were overcome with happiness. The fruit on the vine of the Katyani Vrat, which is difficult for others to attain, had now spontaneously ripened for the gopis. Drinking the words flowing from Krishna's mouth, which indicated his greed for them, the gopis savoured a stream of rasa-filled nectar. They saw it as an exclusive gift awarded to them on the auspicious completion of their vrat. In this way, the gopis overcame the fatigue from executing their austere vow. Lowering their eyelids in shyness, the gopis cast sidelong glances to reprimand that expert thief who fulfills all desires. Krishna's appearance seemed like some good fortune arriving at the wrong time. Their extreme joy forcefully propelled them to Krishna, yet simultaneously filled them with confusion. In this state of bewilderment, they ignored the coldness of the water and submerged themselves up to their necks. They stood silently without yielding to Krishna's demand. Those young girls with gleaming teeth and bashful faces thought that Krishna might not keep his promise to return their clothes. Whispering amongst themselves, one gopi said, "Why not talk to him and defeat him with your clever words?" But being controlled by Yogamaya, none of the gopis could respond to Krishna's request to collect their clothes. In the silence, the faces of the gopis, encircled by dark blue locks of hair, looked like rows of half-open lotuses surrounded by quiet bumblebees. What charm they added to the bank of the Jamuna. For a long time the gopis deliberately refused to answer or look towards the kadamba tree. Giving up their shyness, which had pervaded them like an internal disease, the gopis finally spoke in such a way to show their disgust with Krishna's naughty behavior. The sweet dancing of their lotus eyes and the darting movement of their eyebrows captivated all directions. The gopis showed their shyness through their affectionate solicitations and entreaties that appeared both witty and respectful at the same time. Their smiling faces created waves of sweetness as their teeth reflected on the water. One gopi said, "Are you not the respectable son of the great king of Vrindavan, who instructs everyone in proper behavior? Are you not the all-attractive ocean of good qualities, full of waves of compassion? Are you not the one who distributes wonderful auspiciousness on the earth with the beauty of your body? Are you not the personified bliss of Vrindavan, illuminating the eyes of everyone with your effulgent limbs? Are you not indifferent to the excessive praise of others? Are you not learned in all shastras and weapons? Are you not the remover of ignorance? Therefore, how could you have suddenly performed such an unjust and abominable act? You should not do such things, because you are the most worshipable entity and the benefactor of the world. So why have you done this atrocious act? We deserve your mercy after having executed such difficult austerities. Your conduct spells death to all the virgins of Vrindavan. Why did you steal our splendid garments needed for our brat? Is this your idea of fun? It will not do. It will not do you any good, but rather it will make you infamous. You should follow the path of honor and not be unfair. Now return our clothes and maintain your spotless fame." Affected by their pleas and shyness, Krishna said, "O lotus-eyed girls, I am not a skillful speaker who is prone to lying. Of course, some eloquent speakers are so habituated to lying that even when telling lies, they repeatedly say it's true. Thus people accept their lies as truth. However, it is well known that my nectarian words are always true. Even in joking, I do not conceal the all-auspicious truth. It is not proper to joke, especially with ladies like you who are practicing bratas. When I said, 'Come and take your beautiful clothes,' I was not telling a lie." The gopis reply, "O one who removes intense pain and destroys irreligion, why are you deviating from the path of Dharma? Even jokingly, a good person never says such things. O deliverer of Gajendra, you are famous for being naturally merciful, but why are you not showing one drop of mercy towards us? Why can't you sympathize with our suffering?" So now their conversation goes on very beautifully between Krishna and the young gopis. The young gopis, meanwhile, are becoming colder and colder in the Jamuna. And finally, they decide that the only way forward is to comply to Krishna's request to leave the Jamuna and to come to Krishna naked and retrieve their clothes. So now I'll continue reading. And Krishna has convinced them that he's convinced them that actually they were breaking their brat by bathing naked in the Jamuna, that this is not correct. The Braj Kumaris attentively listened to the pleasing words of Krishna. Overcome with feelings of love, respect, and hesitation, each of the gopis slowly moved towards their beloved Lord. Krishna relished the purity of their love, while observing their state of embarrassment. Putting their clothes on his shoulder, Krishna smiled as he drank the nectar from their sweet loving faces. In an affectionate voice, Krishna said, "It is very inauspicious to stand here with your hair hanging loose and disheveled. It is especially offensive for one performing a vrat. What to speak of a person observing an ordinary vrat? Even ordinary people keep their hair tied back. O beautiful young girls, even the celestial nymphs lose their beauty when they let down their hair. By this act you have spoilt your beauty. O girls whose sweet faces conquer the moon, you should tie your hair in a braid." So now Krishna is not allowing them even to cover their bodies with their hair. Upon hearing Krishna's clever, pleasing words, the gopis lost all apprehension. Overwhelmed with prema, they slowly rose out of the water. Their golden thighs radiated a special type of elegance. The ankle bells on their pink lotus feet resounded like an army of quarreling ducks. As the young girls stood before Krishna, they pleased him with the fickle sound of their bangles. Their hair stood on end as the gopis relished the moment with nervous laughter. The young gopis looked very beautiful with their slightly blooming golden breasts. Desiring to please the Lord, they tied their hair in artistic ways. Though satisfied, Krishna spoke as follows: "O girls, it is not right to stand before someone you respect. Even if you see me as an ordinary person, it is not right for you to stand before me. Therefore come here and obey me by sitting on this pure seat." For the gopis these words flowed like nectar from the moon of Krishna's mouth. They felt relieved, but due to fear they could not decide between right and wrong. The gopis crossed their legs and placed their hands over their private parts, with their breasts hanging down slightly as they leaned forward. The gopis looked like golden forest creepers laden with heavy jewel-like fruits. The desire for conjugal love captured Krishna's mind. Smiling, he spoke pleasantly. "O young ladies, this is not the proper conduct of righteous persons. A person doing a brat should never bathe naked in a river. By doing so, you have offended Jamuna Devi, the presiding deity of the river, and by playing in the water while looking at the bank, you have also offended the Devatas. Although you have obstructed my desires, your offenses can be mitigated because you acted in ignorance. If you really want to achieve the results of your vrat, then you must come alone. Then you must atone for your offenses by following my advice." Seriously considering Krishna's proposal, the doe-eyed gopis thought, "We should do whatever the opposition suggests, but we cannot guess what he will say next. And if we do not comply, the results of our brat will be destroyed. So what can we do?" While thinking this, the gopis spoke amongst themselves. One gopi said, "We are afraid and doubtful about following his advice." Though filled with great joy and fervor, the grip of timidity made the gopis apprehensive. Understanding their fatigue and mental condition, and seeing them losing their natural color, Krishna said, "O young girls, your glances fly hither and thither like the fearful eyes of the chakora. Why are you raising such harsh arguments? Please hear my words that can remove all the offenses made during your vrat. Can one quench his thirst without water? Without evening, summer gives no relief. Therefore you should follow my order. You can wipe away all your sins just by offering your respects to me. If you do it with great faith and devotion, you will receive the desired result in many ways. O beautiful girls, to counteract your offenses, you should stand here before me with straightened legs and offer obeisances while placing your joined palms above your heads." Casting aside their shyness, the gopis obeyed the words of their dearmost lover. With half-closed eyes, they held their joined palms above their heads and offered respects to Krishna, who made them act just like toy dolls. The gopis pacified Krishna by standing humbly before him with their hands hanging down. As Krishna's prema-filled heart melted, a nectarian smile perfumed his lips. Glancing wantonly at the young girls, Krishna revealed his desires by saying, "You have greatly pleased me, and I feel the utmost limit of love for you. Dress yourselves in your clothes, which are redder than pomegranate flowers. May you drown in the ocean of ecstasy according to your individual tastes of love." After saying this, Krishna extended his hand to give each gopi her respective clothing. The good fortune of the Brajakumaris far surpassed that of the goddess of fortune. Holding their shimmering dresses in their hands, the gopis looked like clusters of golden lotuses bedecked with flags. They appeared very beautiful and ready for the play of love. Then they carefully put on their clothes that were nicely scented from the touch of Krishna's lotus hands. Glancing shyly at Krishna, their golden lotus faces bloomed with beauty. Their bodies trembled pleasurably from the excitement of finally achieving his association. Tasting the topmost happiness, the gopis stood there steeped in affection. Even without touching Krishna, they felt his powerful embrace. Abandoning his gravity, the young prince of Vrindavan spoke compassionately to the young girls. I knew everything before the desire tree of your determination sprouted. I have performed this astonishing pastime just to increase your love. By ordering you harshly, I tested the purity of your love. Attracted to me, you submissively obeyed my beneficial orders, and therefore I have manifested eternal love within your hearts. Your desire is pure, eternally existing, and laden with rasa. I reciprocate differently with people in the mundane world. If a pure-hearted person displays such intense desires, I will transform them into prema. Then he will taste the blissful nectar derived from experiencing my qualities. This well of nectar exists independently of any other type of rasas. Even Lakshmi Dev hankers for the love that you have so clearly displayed. Just as rice paddy that is boiled in water or fried in fire can never show the qualities of the seed, similarly the lusty desires of the common people can never sprout in the ocean of such supreme rasa. After hearing Krishna speak, the thoughtful girls appeared beautified with the sweet fragrance of the vine of fickleness. Accepting the words of their dearmost as truth, the gopis experienced both immeasurable joy and agitation due to their intense longing for Krishna. Then the gopis cried tears of happiness that seemed like the fluid dripping from the ears of a lust-crazed elephant. Without responding to Krishna, the gopis just stood for some time with a disturbed look in their eyes. Now that their vrat was finished, the gopis felt surcharged with love and incredible bliss. They murmured among themselves with voices as sweet as cooing birds. Krishna continued, Now return to Vrindavan. Soon we will enjoy together during the festive night. You have attained eternal perfection, so stop whispering like thirsty chataka birds. With their sudden glances and lips trembling in love, the gopis appeared to be covering Krishna with a shower of blue lotus petals and newly furled leaves. Pacified and pleased, the gopis then returned to Vrindavan with great difficulty. So, this is a remarkable pastime, and I've taken the time to read this Ananda Vrindavan Champu, which brings out very clearly the immensity of the affection that was exchanged between Krishna and the young gopis during this pastime, and how Krishna made them surrender everything that they possessed, which principally was their chastity and their reputation, their shyness, etc. Just like the gopis he calls with his flute to Vamsivat we heard yesterday. So this is Krishna's purifying mercy to make the gopis more qualified for this Rasa Leela. So by hearing this, our respect towards the Rasa Leela as being totally free from any type of lustful mood becomes firm. So it's very important for the sadhaks to appreciate that this is so much beyond any type of material consideration whatsoever. This is the pure spiritual rasa of pure unadulterated love between Krishna and the gopis. So Cira-ghata ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. So after our darshan at Cira-ghata and hearing of the beautiful pastimes of the very young Kumari gopis and their exchange with Krishna after he stole their clothes, now we generally take prasadam here at Cira-ghata. This is about midday for the devotees. We've come from Khelanvana, we've come through Rama-ghata, and now we've come here. And all the devotees always bathe regularly in the Jamuna at this point because it's such a beautiful beach for bathing. It's very extensive sands that you can see, practically half a kilometer of just the sands of the Jamuna. It's all very clean It's not so much contaminated like in Vrindavan these days. There are so many people, so many activities happening on the banks of the Jamuna. But here it's very pristine and beautiful and clean area, so the devotees become very joyful to see Jamuna Devi in such a nice condition, and we can bathe there. So after taking our prasadam, we board our buses again, and we come to another smaller van, like Khelanvana is a small van. There are 48 forests altogether in Braj. So some are upavans, some are adivans. They're different types of forests. So this Viharavana is where we're going to next, which is a most beautiful forest. And I'm just going to read from the Parikrama book how Gurudev has described Viharavana. So this is a place of the divine couple, Radha and Krishna's playful pastimes. Vihar. Vihar also means playful. Like we heard Kelan means playful. So Vihar means playful. So Gurudev writes, here Srimati Radhika tested Krishna's dancing skills. And he gives a beautiful verse. And the translation of this, Radha Priya is holding a stick of pride and anger, Man Guman, and is teaching her beloved Kunja Bihari to dance. But if, while Radha Priya is instructing him, he makes a mistake in a swift movement of the dance, the sharp glances shooting from Priyaji's eyes punish him. So this is one of the pastimes that is described in the Viharavana. Viharavana is packed with different types of pastimes relating to the sweetness between Radha and Krishna. So Vihar Kund lies here also. This is where Krishna and his cowherd boyfriends performed water sports and had the cows drink its pure and sweet water. Nearby is a very attractive grove of Kadamba trees, in which one can see the imprints of the Lord's lotus feet under a small canopy. So this very nice Charan Pahari is also here in Viharavana. So when we come with the devotees, we hear many different pastimes of Krishna and Radha in this place. So Viharavana ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So now again we board our buses and we begin our journey south, back again to Vrindavan. And on the way back, we come to the very beautiful place of Vatsavana. Vatsa is calf. So this Vatsavana, this is where Lord Brahma, he became bewildered and he stole the cows and calves and cowherd boys of Krishna. So Krishna had a desire to reciprocate with his loving cows' desire to become their calves. The cows desired Krishna to become their calves, just as the elderly gopis desired Krishna to become their dear child. They could see the bliss that Mother Yashoda was experiencing looking after Krishna, and they had a very strong motherly attraction to have Krishna directly as their child. So Krishna, he understood this desire, and Yogamaya fulfilled this desire in such a remarkable way. Lord Brahma, he saw when Krishna killed the Aghasura demon. The Aghasura demon's soul was just residing in the sky. And when Krishna came out of the body of Aghasura, Lord Brahma saw directly the soul of Aghasura merge into the feet of Sri Krishna. And at that time, Lord Brahma was astonished. He didn't know the nature of the personality of Krishna, and he doubted the supreme personality of Krishna. So he thought he would test this young cowherd boy with his own mystic opulence. We understand this is a mood of pride, ultimately, that is covering Lord Brahma's intelligence. This pastime is described as the Brahma Vimohan Leela. Vimohan means the bewilderment of Lord Brahma. We understand that at the beginning of creation, when Lord Brahma was manifested from the navel of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and he performed austerity to Divya Saraswati and had darshan directly of Krishna, Krishna came at that time. And it's described how he shakes Lord Brahma's hand and he imparts the Chatushloki, the 4 principal verses that are to be understood of all tattva, to understand Krishna as being that Supreme Lord. And Lord Brahma, he asks at that very time to Krishna, what happens if I become proud of my service to you? Because Lord Brahma's service is so extraordinary. I mean, we in this world may become proud of all kinds of things, but Lord Brahma is the creator, the architect of all these worlds, all the 14 planetary systems. He is planning, he is manifesting, and he is populating. So how can some pride not at some time be expected to come in his heart? And Krishna responds, when you think of me, then your pride will be purified. So this is an example when Lord Brahma becomes bewildered by his pride to test Krishna with his own mystic opulence. And he sees Krishna at this place of Vatsavana where we've come today. We see him in the most beautiful, delightful condition. He's sitting there with all his thousands of cowherd suckers, and they're taking a wonderful picnic on the bank of the Jamuna. Aghasura has just been killed, and now they're sitting in a clean place on the bank of the Jamuna, and they're enjoying such a festive atmosphere amongst themselves of joking and so on. And as I said previously, it appears that Krishna is sitting in front of every single boy. So all the boys are intoxicated with bliss. But then during this time, it seems that the cows have wandered, or the calves rather, have wandered. At this point in Krishna's Leela, it's described his age is on the cusp of Poganda, which means at this time, at the beginning of the Leela, he's in his Kumari, in his Balya age. He's only up till 5 years old. So at that age, he's just tending the calves. So they had the calves tethered close by. And then Lord Brahma, he comes and with his mystic potency, he unties all the calves so they wander off. And then he grabs those calves and he puts them in a cave. And then the cowherd boys, they suddenly realize that all the calves have wandered off. So Krishna jumps up and says, don't worry, I will go and find them myself. You all stay here and enjoy your picnic. I will come back in a moment. I will find them, don't worry. So Krishna, he leaves. On this day, Lord Balaram, Baladev, Daubai, he didn't come with Krishna on this day. Again, it was Mother Rohini was celebrating his birthday. So Krishna was alone without Balaram. So Yogamaya has arranged this situation with the exact timing for all the details to work out perfectly. So Krishna alone, he goes and searches out those lost calves, and he looks everywhere, it's described. He acts like just a completely bewildered young boy. He's looking in the valleys, he's looking in the forest, he's looking down by the Jamuna, he's looking everywhere. He can't find them. So he comes back to report to the boys that he can't find them, and to his astonishment, he finds all the boys have also disappeared. So Lord Brahma has taken the boys and placed them in a cave in a state of yoga nidra. He's put them carefully in a cave also. And then Krishna acts as if he's bewildered for a moment. But then, of course, his Yogamaya potency reveals the truth of what has actually happened in Krishna's heart, and he realizes that that Brahma has done this. So then Krishna, he manifests from his own form the exact replicas of every single cowherd boy, the exact dress, their exact ornaments, their exact instruments, everything about those boys, and the exact characteristics of all of those boys manifest from the body of Krishna. Meanwhile, Lord Brahma has started his journey back to Brahmaloka. So before Lord Brahma reaches Brahmaloka, Krishna enters Brahmaloka himself, disguised as Lord Brahma. And he tells the gatekeepers there is an impostor wandering around, looking like me. If he comes to the gates, don't let him in. Krishna had to arrange like this because it was necessary for Lord Brahma only to be away for a single year. Otherwise it would disrupt the rest of the pastimes. So because of this pastime, because of Krishna assuming the form of Lord Brahma and sending Lord Brahma straight back, that time it took Lord Brahma to go from here to Brahmaloka, his place, took 12 months earth time. So by the time Lord Brahma returns, then the veil of illusion is pulled from his eyes. But during that 12 months that Krishna was away, he enters the village of Braj with all the cowherd boys that are now his own manifestations. They're directly manifesting from his body. So then a remarkable thing happens at Goduli when Krishna returns playing his flute and all the calves are coming back. The calves also have manifested from Krishna's body. They are also directly Vishnu Tattva, we can say now. All of these personalities are directly coming from Krishna's body. So as all the cowherd boys, the Sakas, they return to Vrindavan at that time of Goduli, that time of dusk, Syayam Lila, then all the mothers generally, when they greet, because all of Braj comes out to greet Krishna's returning from the pasturing grounds with the cows, because they've been in so much separation, even a few hours waiting for Krishna to return. The Brijbasis are addicted fully to having Krishna's darshan and being with Krishna. So as Krishna returns, normally all the mothers, they first of all run to Krishna and they take Krishna's darshan directly, and then they go and attend to their own sons. But on this day, all the mothers, remarkably, they just ran to their own sons straight away. They were so attracted to their own sons, and they embraced them so lovingly. And then they took their sons carefully home, as Mother Yashoda did every day. And then they bathed them, they massaged them with oil and so on. They dressed them nicely, they fed them nicely. And then they sent them off to Nanda Bhavan, where they would go and see Krishna again. And then go with Nanda Baba to the Goshala and milk and watch the milking of the cows and play with Krishna. But the mothers were able to lavish full motherly affection on all their sons for 12 months, because their sons were directly Krishna. And when the calves returned to their mothers, the mother cows, they were so affectionate to their calves, as described practically, they were trying to lick them to death. They were licking them so strongly out of affection because Krishna had become their calf. So this pastime goes on for 12 months when the mothers of Vrindavan are able to have Krishna directly as their own child. And it's also arranged at this time by Yogamaya that Gargamuni, he announces that this is the best astrological time for marriages. So all of those manifested Sakas from Krishna directly, all were betrothed to the gopis. So in Tattva, we can say, Krishna was actually married to all the gopis. Ultimately, this is the truth, that Krishna was in fact married. Yogamaya arranged for those betrothals to take place. Remember, Krishna was only approaching his 6th year, this Poganda age. In his 6th year, it's described, his body goes through some radical transformations. His feet become bigger, his waist becomes slimmer, his chest becomes more broad. He goes to a different age, a different mood takes place, because he transforms from Balya to Poganda age. So after 12 months has passed, and it is time to conclude these pastimes, Krishna and Balaram, at this time, they're standing together at the foot of Giriraj Govardhan. And the cows and the gopas are grazing and tending the cows on the sides of Giriraj, high up. And suddenly the cows, they look down in the valley where Krishna and Balaram are, and they see all their 1-year-old calves. These are not their recent calves, these are 1-year-old calves, which are in fact direct manifestations from Krishna. And the mother cows, they become overwhelmed in Vatsalya Bhav for their dear calves, and they break loose from the boundaries of the gopas controlling them, and they race down heedlessly down the side of the slopes of Govardhan. And the gopas, they become very angry indeed, because the cows are not obeying them. They're just rushing forward to be with their 12-month-old calves who they see down beside Krishna. And the gopas, trying to stop them, they become very frustrated and angry that why aren't the cows obeying us? Why are they putting themselves in such jeopardy running down the side of this mountain when they could break their legs or anything? It's very dangerous the way they were running down at such radical speed. But to their astonishment, when the cows came down into the valley where Krishna was, they didn't go to their new calves, but they ran straight to their 12-month-old calves, and they began to affectionately lick them and to nuzzle them, to be with them. And another remarkable thing happened is when the gopas came down and were very angry mood, but then they saw all their dear sons, who also were Krishna. Their anger melted totally, and they went straight to their sons, just like the cows had gone straight to their calves. They went straight to their sons, and they put their sons on their laps, and they smelt their heads, and they bathed them in their affection, and they embraced them lovingly and so on. And all their anger disappeared from their frustration with trying to contain the cows. Meanwhile, Balaram, of course, he was with Krishna on this day, and he was witnessing this remarkable event. How come that the cows, they didn't go to their newly born calves, but they went to these 12-month-old calves? And how come the gopas, who were so infuriated by trying to control the cows, lost all their anger and frustration as soon as they saw their sons? So what is happening here? And it's described that Balaram was thinking that, is this some type of illusory power? Is this some type of demonic force that has entered into Krishna's assembly? What is it? He was trying to look with all his endowed omnipotence at what was the story here. And then he turns to his younger brother Krishna, and Krishna sends him a glance. And with that first glance, some of the veil begins to lift of the actual illusion. And then finally, Balaram, he receives another glance from Krishna, and all of a sudden, Balaram sees with his omnipotent potency that in fact all of these calves and all of these cowherd boys are direct manifestations coming directly from the body of Krishna. He can see them all as Vishnu Murtis. He sees them all as coming from Krishna's body. And Balaram is astonished. He's struck. And he turns to Krishna and he said, I always thought that these were Nityasiddha Parikas that were performing these pastimes with you. But now I'm seeing that they're all your direct expansions. And he was like shocked. And then Krishna, he reveals to Balaram the truth. In a few glances, he's revealing to Balaram that actually Lord Brahma has stolen the original sakas and the calves. And then Balaram, he becomes very bewildered by understanding this, that for a whole 12 months, I haven't known this. And he turns to his brother and he's somewhat irritated. Well, why didn't you tell me this 12 months ago? And Krishna says, because I knew you would have missed your darling Sridham too much. You could not have withstood the separation for 12 months from Sridham. So I couldn't tell you. Also, Krishna couldn't tell Balaram because he knew that Balaram would immediately tell Mother Yashoda, and then the whole thing would be blown. So he had to keep confidentiality from Balaram at that time. So Balaram, actually, Jiva Goswami describes in Gopal Champa, was so unhappy when he understood that he'd been hoodwinked by his younger brother for 12 months that he didn't come out cow grazing for the next 5 days. He decided just to stay at home. And when he did finally come out, the first day he came out, he killed the demon Pralambasura, which kind of made him more acknowledged amongst all the cowherd boys. So this pastime Jiva Goswami describes in Gopal Champu. But then the 12 months was up, and Lord Brahma, he returned from Satyaloka, from Brahmaloka, and he returned, and to his astonishment, he saw that Krishna was playing with the cowherd boys, because by this time Krishna had gone back to that same area where Lord Brahma had first stolen those cowherd boys. And to his astonishment, he saw Krishna was playing with the same cowherd boys. And then he saw the same calves were there. And then he went to his cave and he looked and he saw that the same calves and cowherd boys were in the cave also. So then with his 4 heads, 2 of his heads looked towards the cave and 2 of his heads looked towards where Krishna was. And then he saw there were completely 2 identical sets of sakas and calves. And then he became completely bewildered and completely astonished. Actually, there are 3 sets of cowherd boys, Srila Gurudev describes. One set was hidden by Lord Brahma, and the other set was manifested by Krishna, and then there is another set that is covered by Yoga Maya, and that is waiting for Krishna to resume his pastimes. So Yoga Maya, just like with Sita Devi when Ram kidnaps her, it wasn't a Ravan kidnaps Sita Devi. This wasn't the real Sita Devi, this was a Mayic Sita Devi. So Lord Brahma cannot steal Krishna's real sakas and calves. He stole a Mayic set of calves. And the real set of calves and cowherd boys were in a yoga nidra state kept by Yoga Maya. And then the manifestation by Krishna are the 3rd set. So Gurudev describes and reconciles everything like this. But when Lord Brahma, he saw all these Vishnu forms, and it's described that as Lord Brahma looked on, all the boys had taken on the color of bluish rain clouds and dressed in silken garments. And then Lord Brahma, he saw them all as Vishnu Murtis. He saw they all had 4 arms, beautiful blue complexions, and yellowish garments. All the boys' chests were marked with the Shrivats, the line of Lakshmi. They had beautiful armbands, and Kaustubha jewels were on their necks, bracelets and ankle bells. They were all holding conch, mace, disc and lotus, helmets, earrings, garlands, sacred belts, all extremely beautiful. Every part of their body was beautifully decorated, and many devotees were worshipping each of the individual thousands of cowherd boys. And Tulsi Devi was chanting mantras. I'm reading now from the Bhagavatam. Those forms had pure smiles, like the increasing light of the moon. All creatures, from insects up to Lord Brahma, were worshipping those Vishnu Murti forms. We can imagine the sight, colossal. Thousands and thousands of cowherd boys being served by millions of worshippers. And it's described that even from the blades of grass to Lord Brahma, they were offering worship to these Vishnu Murti forms who were surrounded by opulences. Each form was surrounded by opulences, the anima siddhas, mystic potency, the 24 elements, the Mahatattva. They were all serving the Vishnu Murtis. And then Lord Brahma saw Kala, time. He saw Svabhav, his own nature. He saw Sanskars. He saw Kama, desire. He saw Karma, fruitive acts, the Gunas. They had all taken forms and were worshipping the Lord. They all had eternal, unlimited forms, full of knowledge and bliss and beyond time. Lord Brahma, seeing all this, his 11 senses became jolted by astonishment and stunned by transcendental bliss. Lord Brahma became silent. At that time it's described that Lord Brahma, his feet touch the ground, because generally the demigods, they never walk on Mother Earth. But at that time he climbed off his swan carrier and his feet touched the ground, and then he lay in prostrated obeisances at the lotus feet of Krishna when he saw this phenomenal exhibition of opulence by Krishna. And then Krishna withdrew that vision from Lord Brahma, because Lord Brahma was not qualified to see more. Thus Lord Brahma stood up, revived, and saw the object of his false identity as the creator of the universes. Then Krishna showed his sweetness of Vrindavan, the trees, the lakes, etc., where anger and greed don't exist, where all live in friendship. And then Lord Brahma saw just Krishna searching for the calves and boys. So then Lord Brahma, he begins to offer very beautiful prayers to Krishna at that time and gives up his prestige, and he prays heartfelt praises of Krishna. And then Krishna, he instructs Lord Brahma, don't test my mystic opulence like this. This is not healthy for you to try to test me. So Lord Brahma, his bewilderment and confusion about the identity of Brajendranandan is fully purified by this pastime. And Lord Brahma, he becomes very regretful of trying to interfere with Krishna's pastimes. But of course, this was all ultimately arranged by the desire of Krishna in the form of Yogamaya. She had arranged all this pastime to take place. Nevertheless, Lord Brahma was somewhat offensive by performing this act. Even though in Gopal Champu, Jiva Goswami, he says, Krishna thinks Brahma is not offensive, but he did this to heighten my prem. Krishna sees everything in a positive light. He doesn't kill any of the demons, for example. It's always his Vishnu form within him that kills the demons. Every circumstance he only sees in a positive way. So he's seeing Lord Brahma like this. But nevertheless, Lord Brahma later on, he offers very beautiful prayers in humble regret for his pastime. So this was very purifying experience, of course, for Lord Brahma. A very wonderful, exhilarating pastime for the devotees to hear at this place of Vatsavana. So today we are taking the dust from this beautiful place and we're remembering the remarkable pastime and all its implications that took place for 12 months of Braj. A very important pastime because it had such ramifications on the whole rest of the Leela that all these gopis, in fact, were married to Krishna. And for 12 months, the mothers, they had Krishna as their son, and the cows, they had the calves as their own calf. So these are very beautiful, sweet, remarkable pastimes. Only the Supreme Lord could manifest such amazingly loving pastimes. So when we're here remembering all these sweet pastimes, then again our Shraddha will become deeper and deeper and more confident of our journey towards our embrace of the Supreme Lord. Shri Vatsavana ki jai, Lord Brahma ki jai, Shri Krishna Brajendranandan ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari. So now we are going to return to our buses, and the last place we're going to stop today is Govinda Garud. And our dear friend Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tapasri Maharaj will speak some of the glories of Garuda-Govinda. And then we will again board our buses and head back for Vrindavan. And now it'll be about 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the evening by the time we return.
Thank you, Maharaji. Yes, this has been a long, dusty day, and this is our final stop. Garud-Govind. Garud-Govind ki jai. Offering my Dandavat pranams, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. So here Krishna performed many various pastimes with his friends, the cowherd boys. And this place lies near Shatikara. So one day while grazing the cows, Krishna was immersed in playing different games here with the suckers. In their play, Krishna made Sridam Saka assume the role of Garuda. He then climbed on his back, acting as if Lakshmi Pati Narayan himself had just mounted Garuda's back. So today, in this mandir, you can see Garuda-Govinda, how this is a very special form of Govinda, as Vishnu, also here having 12 arms, and Sridam as well. And Lakshmi is there because Krishna said, "Oh look, I'm acting as Lakshmi Pati Narayan." This location is also connected with Ram Leela. When the serpents released by Meghanath bound Ramchandraji in their coils, he became helpless. Hearing of this from Devarshi Narada, Garuda came to the rescue. As soon as the serpents saw Garuda, they released Ramchandraji and fled. This incident left Garudaji a little doubtful as to whether Sri Ram was in fact Bhagavan. However, by associating with Mahatma Kakabusundi and by receiving darshan of Sri Krishna at the time of Krishna Leela, this delusion was later removed. The place where Garuda had darshan of Sri Govinda, the maintainer of the cows and the gopas, is known as Garuda-Govinda, where we are now. At that time, Sri Krishna climbed upon his back and assured him that he was indeed Bhagavan. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhuvaevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
So this is a very special day today also. It's special not just because we came to all these wonderful pastime places, but it's also Bahulastami. It's also the appearance of Radha Kund, when Radha Kund manifested ultimately from the hoofprint of Aristasura, when Krishna made that hoofprint bigger by his own heel and called all the holy rivers to come into that Radha, into that place, so that he could take a bath there and purify his apparent offense for killing the demon that the gopis had demanded him to do. So we'll hear this pastime in detail when we go to Radha Kund. But today is a very special day in Braj and in Radha Kund, and if we have the opportunity to go and experience that Bahulastami, it's a very powerful festival where thousands and thousands and thousands of people crowd the steps of Radha Kund. You can't even find practically a toe space on the steps crowding around Radha Kund, because it's described that at midnight is the exact time when Radha Kund appeared. And if you take bath in Radha Kund at that very moment that Radha Kund appeared, then tremendous fortune will actually manifest for you. So of course all the people all over India, they come around at that time, and it's a very intense time, but very, very ecstatic time. It's a prayerful time, because most of the people coming, they're saying so many prayers and hoping that all their inner desires will be completely fulfilled. So this is Bahulastami, which takes place this evening, so we can remember that pastime tonight. Shri Radha Kund ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.